Alright guys, welcome to Travel Tuesdays. I have Danielle with me again, and we're going to be doing some of the festivals in Japan. This is actually going to be a two-parter episode. I don't know how to pronounce the Japanese names of them, so I will let her start with that. Let's click on to the first one. The English version of this is the Naked Man Festival, which is basically exactly what it sounds like.
Okay.
But first, cherry blossoms.
Make it look all pretty. Look at this gorgeous. I can't do this. It's backwards. Look at this. It's so nice. Okay, so this festival is in a small town called Yanaizu, which is in the Aizu region. Aizu region of Fukushima Prefecture in northern Japan. So it's about 5 hours north of Tokyo. If you're looking on the map. This town is out in the mountains. It's not got that many people living there. I think it's less than 5,000 people. It's pretty small. But there's this little temple up on the hill, and there's a really long version of the name, but I know it as Enzoji Temple. And during the springtime, as you can see in the picture, it's got beautiful cherry blossoms all over the place. It's very nice. But this particular area of Japan gets like a crazy amount of snow. So if we go to the next photo, you can kind of see. This is
so
what.
cute.
So that's a Jizo statue. Actually, that's in the next town over in Mishima. But you can kind of get an idea of how much powder snow, how much snow falls in this area of the country, which is great for skiing, not so great if you're participating in this festival. Spoiler alert. So if you're living in Japan, if you take a look at the next photo, this is kind of what happens to your car in the morning sometimes.
Just like here.
All right. Like, which of these piles of snow is my car? It's a mystery. Let's just do a treasure hunt in the parking lot. Anyway, so that's, yeah, so anyway, so this festival happens every year, not July, that would make no sense with the snow, January 7th, and it's part of the New Year's customs in this area of the country. So the temple you saw earlier up on the hill, in the wintertime, this is kind of the hill leading up to the temple on the river, so you can see how, well, dreary and miserable it can be in the snow. So you got to do something to,
But it's still pretty because
have
all
a bit
of the
fun.
nice contrasting red.
That is right. So it's famous in this area. We've got these nice red bridges. You can kind of see it right there. Trying really hard. These nice red bridges over the river. So the river is called Tadami River. And there's also a town called Tadami, which is kind of like all the way at the end of the river. And there's also a train line called the Tadami line that leads to this town. So I don't know if the river came first and then the town, which one was named after the other. But anyway, it's all Tadami, all of these things. I was told one of my friends worked in the town of Tadami, and people, sometimes with the long Japanese names, it's kind of hard to remember, so you have to kind of come up with a mnemonic to remember. And she goes, okay, so the way to remember, the town of Tadami is it's Tada! It's me! Tadami! And I was like, that's pretty much the lamest thing I've ever heard, but you never forget the name of the town, so I guess it works. Anyway, so this is the town of Yanaizu along the Tadami River. So if you go up this hill, and then we can see the temple at the top of the hill, and it's pretty in the snow as well, instead of cherry blossoms, now it's snow. But as you can imagine, it'd be pretty cold if you happen to run up that in bare feet. Now, why would you run up that in bare feet, you may ask?
But before we get there, this thing on the branch, what is it?
Oh, yes. Okay, so that is a fortune. So pretty much any temple in Japan, any shrine in Japan. Quick religious history of Japan. There's two major religions in Japan. There's Shintoism, and then there's Buddhism. Now, Shintoism is the native religion to Japan, and so if you've seen any Japanese, any photos of Japanese shrines, they've got the red gates out front, and those are called torii gates. So if you see the red gates, then it's a shrine. And if you see any Buddhist statues, then it's a temple, and then that means that it's a Buddhist temple. So you have Buddhist temples and then Shinto shrines. You never really have Buddhist shrines or Shinto temples. But confusingly, sometimes if you've got a big Buddhist temple, sometimes somewhere on the grounds, they'll have like a small Shinto shrine. Most Japanese tend to follow both religions because, it's just part of their culture. Anyway, so this particular one is a Buddhist temple, but confusingly, on the grounds there is a Shinto shrine. Pretty much any shrine you go to, you can buy these they're called Omikuji in Japanese. And basically, usually you pay around 100 to 200 yen, so like $1 or $2. And usually you randomly draw a number. So there's cases where you shake it's not really a jar, it's made of wood. So you shake like a box, and then you shake out a stick, and it has a number on it, and then you give that number to the temple, or the guy who works at the temple. So he's like a priest or whoever, and then he'll give you the corresponding Omikuji. It's like I lost the train of thought. Omikuji, or fortune. And so on this fortune, it'll usually say, if there's a ranking, it'll say if it's a really good fortune, or like an okay fortune, or a really bad fortune. And it'll say things like, if you'll have good business sense, or you'll be healthy, or, now is a good time to get pregnant, or like, it'll have all these kind of things. And if it's a particularly good fortune, you take it with you, and then you can do it. But if you get a really bad fortune, like, you don't really, if you want to try to, lessen the impact of that, then what you do is you fold it lengthways a couple times, and then you tie it. Usually they have like some strings up that you can tie it to, or if not, you can just tie it to a branch on any of the trees on the temple grounds. So if you go to a temple or a shrine in Japan, you'll often see all these little bad fortunes.
This person has a not good fortune then.
Yes, and not so good. So they're like, just leave it here and then run away. So anyway, continuing on. Right.
It's sideways.
Okay, so we'll just tilt this way, figure it out. Right, okay, apologies. So this festival is called the Naked Man Festival, or Hadaka Matsuri. There we go. In Japanese. So basically what happens is a bunch of the local men strip down to this is called fundoshi, so it's like the traditional Japanese loincloth. And this is January 7th, so it's pretty chilly outside. So they just like drink a bunch of sake, and then they run through the streets of the town barefoot, only in their little loincloths, in the middle of winter at night. And so they run through the streets and then run up those snowy stairs that we saw earlier, run into the temple, and inside the temple it looks like this if you look up in the ceiling. So there's this long straw rope, and then a gong. That's the thing in the middle that right between the two guys. They're sitting on this gong. By the way, metal gong, sitting on the thing in the cold winter. Can't imagine super comfortable, but anyway, they sit up there, and then all the men are in the temple floor, and then they're basically pushing and shoving each other and trying to get up that long rope. And normally that rope is normally there, and you actually use that to bang the gong. It's a very heavy rope. So when you make an offering, normally it has to be a coin that's got a hole in it. So with Japanese coinage system, the 5 yen coin, which is about like a nickel, and then the 50 yen coin, which is about 50 cents approximately, they've got holes in them. So you throw one or two of those into the offering box, and then you bang the gong to let the gods, or the patron saint, or whoever of the, not a patron saint because that's Catholic, but the patron spirit of the temple or shrine, to let them know that you've given them something. And you bang the gong, and you usually clap your hands and you bow, and there's different orders you can do it. I've seen many different explanations, but anyway, that's there normally. Normally you're not allowed to climb it. That is, do not try this if you go visit a temple or shrine in Japan. Do not try to climb the rope because you've seen it here, right? Do not try this at home, kids, okay? But for this particular festival, the men fight each other. Well, not fight, like they'll just like shove each other. Like, get out of my way, I'm gonna climb now. And then they just climb up this rope, and some of them succeed, some of them do not succeed, some of them just slide right back down, and some of them are very mean, and they'll just like grab their friend's loincloth and just yank them off the rope. Yeah, I've seen. It's interesting. Anyway, but if you live in the town, or if you live nearby, you can apply to join. And sorry ladies, this is dudes only. I know you're very disappointed that you could not join in this festival, but anyway, you can still join in and watch. And watch all the dudes climb up, and they climb up into the rafters, and they just kind of hang out up there and either encourage the people yet to come, or just like make fun of them and just. Anyway, it's a real fun festival to watch. Next festival, I want to talk about, this is the Kenka Matsuri, which translates to fighting festival. This is also in Fukushima Prefecture. This is right near Fukushima City, and it's like, I'm not sure if it's technically part of Fukushima City, or it's a separate town that's just right adjacent, but it's from an area called Izaka, which is famous for its onsen hot springs, which is like wonderful. Anyway, so this festival happens in, I think it's the fall, around the fall time before the snow falls. And so in this picture, behind me is a portable shrine, right? And you can basically sign up to join. Each neighborhood has its own shrine, and so people from that neighborhood all during the day they come together, and then they carry this shrine through the streets, and they chant, and then they let people know. And I applied to join. The international community there also like has a little has one of these shrines, and so we kind of all came together and did this. So if we look at the next picture, you can see this is kind of how you carry it. So you kind of carry it's kind of, there's these boards and slats, and you just kind of carry it through the streets. Now for short people it's really great because you can barely hold on, and you're just kind of hanging on as you go through.
Symbolically carry.
Yes. Now for tall people, the whole weight of the shrine is on your shoulder. So some of my tall friends, the next morning they had these huge bruises on their shoulders. And I'm a little bit shorter than average, and I was just like, oh, sorry guys, thanks. But yeah, no, it's really good fun. So you walk through the streets and you chant, and you go wasshoy, wasshoy, minna de wasshoy, and you just chant and walk through the streets. And I think we walked for a good couple hours, but you take it down, you take breaks, and we had a big enough group that we could swap out people carrying, so it worked out really well.
How much-ish would one of these weigh?
Oh boy.
A lot?
Depending on the shrine. There are bigger ones and there are smaller ones. This particular one, we could pick it up with like a minimum like 4 people, but it was pretty heavy. And so yeah, well, if you can see how many people we have in that photo, it was at least 8 or 10 people carrying it. So yeah, that kind of gives you an idea. They're pretty heavy. Anyway, so next photo. So that's during the day. At night, they get these really big shrines. So it's kind of hard to see in this photo, and apologies for the poor photo quality. But it is way bigger. There's actually people inside the thing playing drums as this is all happening. So they're playing taiko drums, and then there's about, dozens of people around the whole thing carrying it. And then if you can see the guys on top, they're just standing on top, and they actually bust through, like the top is papered over. So like they actually just bust through the paper and are standing on the slats underneath. And there's a bunch of these guys carrying them, so they're yelling to each other, and then the drum is actually kind of leading them, so they kind of know which way to go. And so basically you hear them chanting and the drumming, and then all of a sudden this shrine comes like busting in because they're running with this thing, and these guys are standing on top like this, and they're like, aha, I am the leader of the neighborhood with the shrine. And then they just like come in, and then so there's a bunch of these different neighborhoods, and the writing on the lanterns is actually the name of the name of the neighborhood.
Okay.
Or the area of town. So they all kind of come in and they do a bunch of posturing with the drums, and the guys standing on top and be like, haha, yes. And then what happens is, if we look at the next picture, they just run into each other. Oh, this is like them running around really fast. And then, yeah, they just slam into each other. And then the aim of the game is to actually flip one of, so they'll come in like, oops, let's see. The 2 of them will come in like, boom, and then they're kind of fighting like this, and then finally one kind of gets under the other, and then the other one just tips right up.
That so if you look at really unsafe.
Yes. So if you look at the next one, this is kind of what ends up happening. So, because you can imagine, it's very dangerous. So the guys actually in the, whoopsie, right there, these 2 guys in the fluorescent jackets, those are, well, the guys in the white jackets next to them, these are police. And then these guys over here are EMS, like they are emergency services ready in case. Anyway, and then I don't know if you can see in the photo, but there's actually guys inside there too, so they're being lifted right up. Anyway, really spectacular to watch, I tell ya. Anyway, so that's the Kenka Matsuri in Izaka. This is the last festival I want to talk about this time around. This is also in Fukushima Prefecture, and it's called the Taimatsu. It's in Sukagawa City. So it's it's going straight north from Tokyo along the Shinkansen bullet train line. It's like before you hit Fukushima City. Anyway, so it's a fire festival. So what you can do, you can get there early during the day, and there's lots of festival food and some festival atmosphere around town, and they just basically block off the whole center of town. So it's just all walking and pedestrian. And what you can do is you can buy these bamboo poles, and on the end it's like this wire that comes down, and then at the end it's like a terry cloth towel tied up on the end, and then it's you can buy one of these for like $5, or you can make one on your own and just bring it with you. And then when it gets dark, you go and line up, and then you dip it in some kind of kerosene or lighter fluid, and then they light it on fire for you, and you're holding this burning stick walking through the streets. It's pretty great, but you have to be very careful about how fast you turn because it's on the wire, right? So if you turn around too fast, you can just like whack somebody. So just be very careful. Anyway, really fun. So then, but then you walking along with anybody can do this, by the way. You can just show up and buy one. And all of a sudden you see this fire in the distance. So what they've done is they've packed straw into pillars and then put up a ton of these pillars in the center of the park. And then they light them on fire. And each pillar is normally, so you'll either have like one neighborhood makes a pillar, or sometimes like each school will make a pillar. So like this pillar was made by Sukagawa Junior High School, and this pillar was made by, the high school or the technical high school or what have you. So there's a whole bunch of these pillars. And if you go to the next picture, you can see there, this is kind of tilted to the side. Anyway,
it's still fire.
It's pretty spectacular how much this burns. And it's kind of, they've also got like things like this. So this is one of the castles in the area, and so they've done it in the shape of the castle, and so they've got these burning pictures. And if we go to the next picture, it's kind of been hard to tell how big these pillars of fire. There we go. It's kind of hard to tell how big these pillars of fire are, but they're huge. They're like, they can be like up to like 3 stories. Like they're really, really tall and like really wide around. So if you go to the next picture, you can just see all these people in the front and all of these burning pillars of fire. People just like climb up ladders and then light them on fire from the top. Like it is madness.
Better hope there's nothing flammable around it.
Well, it's actually when it's usually snowed, so like the ground is wet around. So, but as you can imagine, they've got all the firefighters stationed around, and they've called in from other cities just in case. And then of course at the end of the night, they want to make sure that everything has died down correctly. But yeah, so that is the Sukagawa Taimatsu Fire Festival, also in Fukushima.
So these are just fires. They don't use them for anything? Like, how frowned upon would it be if you had like a stick with a marshmallow?
Unfortunately, they are gated off, so you can't actually see that. However, at different festivals, so in the festival in the little town that I was living in, for their winter festival, they actually also had these, they call them Okami Bonfires. And what you actually do with these is any charms, like lucky charms, or things that you buy from the shrine or the temple, throughout the year, you place it on these bonfires, and then the intention is for you to buy new ones every year, so you renew your luck. And so you have to get rid of the old ones, but you can't just throw them in the garbage because, that's be disrespectful, so they burn them instead, which is so much better. Anyway, so for these Okami bonfires, in my town's festival, what they ended up doing is they would put all the lucky charms on it, and it would still have like all the straw and things. And then once the top part burned down and it was just like the big bonfire at the bottom, then you could approach and you could cook things on it. However, they try not to have the tradition of, s'mores and marshmallows and smokies on the fire. Can you hazard a guess? What do you think that Japanese people cook on, like, traditional campfire, bonfire Japanese food? What?
Octopus?
Very close. Squid. Dried squid is very popular. Also, mochi, which are like these very hard rice cakes, and dango, which are like, what they tend to do is they make these dango, which can be very colorful. They add food coloring, so you get like pink and green and white and all these different ones. And then they, when they're still soft, they stick them on the trees, and so you get these trees that are with all these colorful little rice balls on them, and then they harden. And then what you do the day of the festival, because normally they make these dango a couple days beforehand, you break a branch off the tree, and then you can use that to roast over the fire. So there you go. Not allowed on this one because, as you can imagine, 3-story bonfire. If that tips over on some people, be in a bit of trouble. But yeah, with the smaller bonfires in the smaller towns, it's more than okay.
All right, so now you know if you want to go roast some Japanese, whatever they're called.
Dango.
Yes, those you can go to some of these smaller towns. So all of these are in Fukushima.
Yeah, the ones of all these festivals I've shown you so far today are in Fukushima, but the winter festivals, they tend to all have very similar traditions. And so anytime in February, normally every weekend if you search around, there's normally some kind of winter festival somewhere or another. So you can enjoy.
Yeah, that's a good option too for winter because I feel like a lot of people would just be going during the summer.
Yes.
And so there's obviously stuff to do in Japan all year round.
Yeah, of course. So in the wintertime, because they've got so much snow, winter sports are fantastic. Of course, they had the 2 winter Olympics in Japan. So they had in Sapporo and then they had in Nagano. And so people may be aware of those, but of course, they still have all of the facilities for those. So they've got some world-class ski resorts all over Japan. So not only the ones where the Olympics were, but all over northern Japan and in Hokkaido. There's so many different ski resorts to enjoy. Highly recommend skiing there. Fantastic powder snow. We get way more powder snow in Japan than compared to in this side of the Rockies anyway. So yeah, winter sports in Japan. Highly recommend. Winter is a great season.
All right, so that was our little foray into some Japanese festivals in the Fukushima district and similar ones around the rest of Japan. I hope you enjoyed having Danielle as our guest.
Thanks for having me.
We'll have some more festivals for you coming up soon. And thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.